Welcome back. I'm down here on pit lane with group number 3, and I was just having a chat with Spencer earlier. He won our qualifying race yesterday, and he's ready to do it again. Spencer, I know we talked a little bit earlier. You've got quite a different vehicle out here, and that really made all the difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, the unique thing about this particular car is that it's mid-engine, so it's the beginning of the era where they put the engine in the back. In theory, it should have a much better weight distribution than most of the other cars in the class, and we seem to be clearly benefiting from that.
All right, well, best of luck today. I'm going to move over here to our number 36 driver, Patrick. He's got his engine revving up, but I will tell you the difference, guys. We've got weight distribution in that model, but this model is all about being light, nimble. It's smaller. He's got a smaller motor, but he's ready to take it in the corners. I hope you can hear me. Patrick is ready to go. If we move on down, we've got Sadler in the 84. Now, Brian, here, this is a family affair car. As you can see, it's got Bill Sadler's name on there. That's part of his family. So this is absolutely history and family in the making. Moving on down one more. Timothy, I spoke to Timothy earlier in our red car. He said the track is super slippery. We had cars doing a little bit of spin outs yesterday. So their goal is to keep it straight on the track going forward. They said, we don't want to make eye contact with the other drivers. So we'll see if we can keep all these cars going straight today. Johnny, let's head back up to you for some Group 3 racing.
Excellent stuff, Taylor. You're gonna get those lungs going today, because we're gonna need that voice over the top of those engines. She's doing a great job getting amongst it. I've done that job. It's not easy because it's scary when they fire up, and you want to be safe and you want to keep out of the way. You don't want to get run over. So good on you. We're about to get ready, as Taylor was pointing out, for our Group 3 action. Everybody giving us a wave. Tony Garcia, our true and faithful cameraman in the grid. He's not frightened of anything. You could throw a bull at him, and people have. But he's not frightened of racing cars. He gets right amongst it. He's been with us for a long time and gets right into the action. And the 57, the silver Cooper Monaco from 1962. How about that? Get a thumbs up from him. Beautiful car. You forget what an occasion it is for those helping as well, for those actually putting the cars together and getting the tires up to the right tire pressure and so on. It really is a wonderful, wonderful day out, if not a weekend. And in some cases, probably a week's worth, driving it here, getting the truck, unloading, and all sorts of things. Martin Swig in memory of. Good for him in the number 35. That's the blue Maserati special from 1957. That is David Swig at the wheel. And if you're not sure why they've got the stickers on there, if you're new to historic racing, that each and every event you do, you put an extra sticker to say where you've been, and then when people see your car, they can see that it is it has a storied history of going to these events. So it's just a tradition that historic racing has built up over the years to put the stickers on the car of every event you attend. Wonderful pictures from the pre-grid. You can see the picket fences either side, the photographers getting their photographs as they line up and head out to turn 11. What a wonderful sight from high above. Great pictures both down on the pre-grid and high above from our drone as we get ready for the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca Group 3 feature race here at Velocity Invitational. Now, these are sports cars from 1957 to 1961. So we've kind of moved up from Group 2. We've moved it forward a little bit, but these are pure and utter sports racing cars. And so a little bit more skill, perhaps, and certainly in terms of racing in the day, these were some of the best cars that were racing in Europe at the time, and combined with some of the Sadler Mark IVs and the Huffaker, another famous name here in California, of guys that took it on themselves to build racing cars, and the Huffaker's still going strong to this day. Great to have that name out here in historic racing. But Lola's, Lotus, Porsche, the famous names from Europe who proliferated American racing for many of the early 50s. And of course, then in the 60s, both the Japanese and of course the muscle cars from Detroit. With Trans Am, you're going to see some examples of that in the smaller displacement cars, but also we'll see the big muscle cars as Mini and Mustang go head-to-head later in the day. That's, I think, our final race, in fact. So we'll get pretty much a good smorgasbord of all things American racing. So the pace car about to come off, and we're about to go racing. Like I said, it's better conditions at the start of the day today. I hope it warms up and the clouds blow off, because it is quite cool. I always worry for these absolutely gorgeous cars that in these temperatures you can see them weaving, as the modern cars do, to try and get the temperature up in the tyres. But it's almost more paramount in these older cars as well, because a cold track can be, anyway, a little like ice almost. As we take a look at the 11, that beautiful white Lotus 11 Le Mans S2 from 1959. What a cracker. Ferrari going through shot there. There's two Ferraris. Now, we had a cracking race yesterday between some of the Ferrari 250s, Testarossas, and also looking to see when Jeffrey O'Neill in his birdcage, yes, he's out there in his Maserati T61 birdcage from 1960, an absolutely gorgeous car. I spoke to Jeff this morning, and of course Jeffrey O'Neill organizing this entire event in its third year now. But hats off to him, he also races about 5 cars as the weekend goes on, so good on him, because that's not an easy thing. You've got half your mind worrying about whether the customers are getting what they want, and half your mind on trying to drive a very, very expensive racing car around a track. But he does it with a plume, and he's a good character, and he's a good focal point, and the essence of really what this event is all about. So hats off to he and Ryan Turi for putting on this event for us once again. And he was telling me this morning, record crowds here yesterday of over 5,000 for the first day, so that's really, really good. Away we go then. Group 3, their feature races, they roar into action. And it is the Cooper Monaco from 1961, Spencer Trenere at the wheel, who did a really good job. And looks to try to do the same again in our 10-lap race here at Laguna. Through goes that beautifully tailed, that silver-tailed Cooper Monaco from 1962. Very much in pursuit as the field starts to spread out. So it is Spencer that takes the lead in the Cooper. And he's already building quite a healthy lead. Over the 84 of the Sadler Mark IV from 1959. Greg Meyer chasing him down in second place. And he's got some good grunt up the hill, no question about it, as they go up the Rahal Straight. And into the corkscrew for the first time. I do think that the sun's going to pop out soon. I'm hoping anyway. If I keep saying it, it'll happen. So down the hill they come, roaring down under the hills. Great spot to watch from. If you're here at the circuit, head up to the corkscrew and then slowly walk down through the woods. A great place to watch them come through. There's the 356, the Porsche Devin Speedster from 1955, that beautiful silver iteration. Gregory Campbell at the wheel. Just behind him is that Silvertail 57 Cooper Monaco from 1962. Looks as though he's going to try and make a pass around the outside into Andretti. Can't quite get close enough this time. You might though. It was all anchors then. Oh, great stuff. Yeah, he thought about it, but then thought wiser of it and just held back. But a lot of people ask me, oh, is this an exhibition? And I'm like, not really. This is racing. These guys, you can see by the way they're fighting the wheel just how much work they're putting into these cars. It really is a joy. And just behind, there we go, got a pass from the 57, and there's the 11. That's the Lotus 11 Le Mans S2 that I mentioned earlier. Timothy Scopes. That's interesting. I've got him down as, so I might have to look for 11A as a new entry because I think Timothy Scopes is in that white Lotus 11 one. So got to be careful with 11 and 11A and all these different numbers occasionally. That's definitely the 6 though, and that's definitely the Maserati T61 birdcage. Jeffrey O'Neill at the wheel. He said, I asked him this morning which he enjoys driving the most because he does get quite a plethora of different cars. He even went out in a Mini earlier this weekend, but he said this is definitely one of his favorites. Competitively, it never really did that much, but certainly has a storied history. This particular car won the Nürburgring, 1,000 kilometers back in the day. And here's the 35, the Monsterati Special, David Swig from San Rafael, California at the wheel. And just behind him, the 14 Lister Corvette from 1959, Rob Walton wheeling that. So we're watching our Group 3 sports racing cars from 1957 to 1961. Their second run of the weekend, and it is Spencer Trenere, Greg Meyer, and William Taylor, our top 3 at the moment. And that's one of the Devin SS's from 1958. Nicholas Colonna, who had a good run yesterday, did Nicholas. To do the same again. I love the open helmet. Looking the part this morning. Jeffrey O'Neill, who we were mentioning, David Swig, who we've also focused on, currently in 6th and 7th at the moment, Rob Walton, and then Nicholas Colonna in 9th position, just ahead of Thor Johnson. Just popping out through the trees here, out of the rainy curve. Wayne Rainey here this weekend. Had a quick chat with him. And I think it's a first time in history we've had 2 of the corners here at Laguna Seca with 2 of the representatives of those corners in Wayne Rainey and Mario Andretti. And if you were wondering, and you saw some of the press yesterday, Mario ran Formula 1 cars yesterday, and he'll be doing the same today. So watch out for that coming up very soon as we look at the 17 Ferrari 250 Testarossa from 1958. Camilo Stauer at the wheel. And just behind him, the Lotus 17 from 59 of Brian Sanborn. Now, the reason this period was so important to racing was that the major European manufacturers at the time, late 50s, early 60s, sales were booming at that point, and there was just more money in racing, basically. So production cars improved as a result, and in the US, real racing circuits now were replacing those airport tracks, the likes of Sebring, which still, of course, exists to its glory today, but the sort of running on the aerodrome or running on a effectively any piece of asphalt that you could were then being replaced by people actually building tracks like Laguna Seca. Laguna was being built in 1957. And so these cars were some of the first cars that we saw on this particular track. And also, these tracks were built purposely because street racing was enjoyed and a lot of fun, but of course causes quite a consternation in any city. But also, from a safety point of view, it was deemed that these cars were getting faster and faster. So tracks like Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, Road America, Riverside were all established in this period. And therefore, the likes of Lotus, Jaguar and Ferrari put their cars on the boats and brought them here to race here in America. And that's been the love affair ever since, quite frankly, and it continues today. And I think that's why America, I think it's the combination of the wealth of being able to acquire some of these priceless cars and also the tracks to run them on, which has made America such a hotbed for historic racing over the last 40, 50 years, and why so many of the European cars, I often get asked, why are there so many Lotuses here? Why are there so many Ferraris and Jaguars here in America? And part of it was that the great drivers of the day, like Sterling Moss or Chris Amon, and many of the European drivers, Denny Hulme and Bruce McLaren, for example, all came here and were hired to race these cars to within an inch of their life, so to speak, but to try to win the races here in America. And often they would bring the European cars over and leave them here. And that led to the manufacturers setting up distributions. We just spoke to O'Gara Motorsports. And that's how the beginnings of the sales of European motors here in America began, because the racetracks were using them and they were importing them to go racing and would often leave them here, but also would then start importing them because people liked what they saw and wanted to see if they could get their own. And post-war, the money was starting to come in, things were starting to look good, and life was good in the end of the 50s. Spencer Trenere then leading the way just as he did yesterday. Greg Meyer in that Sadler Mark IV is in second place. He hails from Carmel, just down the road. And that Sadler Mark IV from 1959. Ah, the British flag emblazoned on that Lotus 11, lovely. Got the Lotus colors with the yellow wheels and the Lotus green, absolutely magnificent. That car from 1958. That's the Sadler Meyer special, that blue. Nick Price at the wheel of that. And that's the man from Lake Spur, California. Nick Price, a well-known name here. Now, that 1957 Tojeiro Climax, Mark Sendron at the wheel. That's quite a unique car. It's not one I've seen out here. Tojeiro Climax. If you're online, let us know what you know about that car, because I have to be honest, that's not one I've seen here at this event. If you're tuning in on the internet, on our live stream, welcome. I've got some fans tuning in from South Africa, from Australia, from the UK, Northern Ireland, Texas. Is that a country? Yes, it is. Ohio. They're all watching all over the world. It's delightful to have you join us here. And hey, if you've got some questions, as you can hear, I'm on my own at the moment. So never easy to take you through it and look at the notes at the same time, but delighted to have you here. And feel free to throw some questions either at my guests or any of the drivers that will come in as the day goes on. hoping to get Zach Brown at some point because it's been a real celebration for McLaren. And next year, of course, their 60th anniversary, and that's part of why Zach Brown is all in with this Velocity Invitational, because they're coming next year to celebrate a very special anniversary for the McLaren marque. And there's that Huffaker genie I was mentioning earlier, Kevin Romack at the wheel. Kevin was due to come and talk to me, but he's obviously out there, so good for him. And like I said, the Huffaker name, as they put together many a car over the last 40, 50 years or so, synonymous with historic racing here in California. And it's been a family affair. They started off, and it's been literally gone down from generation to generation. And the Huffaker name has remained in racing here in California. And there's the Cooper Monaco from 1961 of Spencer, waving to the crowd. And that's because I think we've got a caution, and that could end this session actually. But obviously doing a great job wheeling around, waving to the crowd. Incidentally, I was talking to somebody from the foundation yesterday. They are going to repave, yes, it is a full course yellow, but they are going to repave the entire Laguna Seca circuit next year. And so they're raising funds, the foundation, to try to see if they can cover the cost that way. I know, having seen Cota do it and Barber Motorsports do it in the last 5 years, it's no mean feat to resurface any part or all of a circuit. So good luck to Laguna. They're not going to change the characteristics, hopefully, of the circuit. They're very much aware of the corners and how important they are, like this one here, turn 10 and turn 11. And so the shape, they're not going to certainly change or ruin anything here. That's something they're very aware of. I think the bridge that lines up over turn 1 may well be adjusted or taken down, at least, obviously, for the repaving. But we're under caution, 2 laps to go, but I think that's pretty much put paid to it if they don't. I'm not quite sure of why the caution is out yet, but when we find out, it could take us to the end of this Group 3 feature race. There's that Cooper 239. We haven't seen that. Brad Baker at the wheel, and he was running in the top 3 at one point. So it looks to me like Spencer Treneray is going to finish his weekend on a double high, because he was right at the front yesterday and he does it again today. Greg Meyer, though, in that 84 Sadler Mark IV, looks as though he's going to take second place. There he is. And then William Taylor in the 57 in that Cooper Monaco from 62 from California will take third. I don't know where the Maserati of Jeffrey O'Neill disappeared to, but he's either come in, but he's dropped out of the top 10. Not to worry. Let's just hope that car's okay, because I love that car. What a beautiful sight. I actually don't mind the cautions, because you get a closer look at the cars, and our cameramen have a chance to really dive closer to the cars. Hats off to them. They do a hell of a job. Trying to cover a car and follow a car. There's where our problem is. It's at the top of the corkscrew. We've got a car parked up there in a rather precarious braking point. And so, quite rightly, the caution flags are out as we slow things down. But I think that now I see what the problem is. I don't think we're going to getting going back to racing in our Group 3, which isn't a problem. And like I said, if you are here at the track and you're listening on the PA, do come down. Really, I absolutely implore you to come down and have a look at these cars close up. I did it myself on Friday. The drivers are very approachable. They want to talk about their cars. That's the point of the event. It's not about exclusivity, it's about inclusivity. And while, yes, these cars are absolutely priceless, and they certainly won't let you drive them, they'll absolutely talk about them, because that's why we're here. Now we're under caution here as Spencer Trenere leads the field around, having led the race for much of the green part of it, but sadly looks as though we're going to finish under caution, and this is the final lap. And while we are under caution, let me give you a little bit of housekeeping in terms of what we've got coming up for you. Now, coming up next is something I absolutely have fun with, and I know Kev Harris will do the same, which is the Ragtime Races. And I'm not going to say too much, except you're really looking at the history of automobile racing at its very best here. And as you can see, that Ragtime Races, 9:55, as you look at the schedule, that's our local time here, Pacific time. So wherever you're tuning in around the world, you're looking at local Pacific time, 9:55, the Ragtime Races. Then Group 4, which is 1956 to 1962 production GT cars. And then we'll have a collector's car exhibition at 10:40, and that, generally speaking, is usually some of the more modern cars that we've got here, and putting on a demonstration of those cars. We'll see if we can get somebody to come in and talk to them. Then we'll have Group 1, again, a bit like the Ragtime Races, going all the way back to 1927 to 49, Voiturettes, GP and Voiturettes it's called, and effectively what that means is Grand Prix cars before there were World Championship Grand Prix cars, and Voiturette racing the smaller displacement Grand Prix cars, where effectively they were privateers racing from 1927 to 37, so sports and touring cars. Then McLaren Formula One will do their demo laps, and that is going to be a sight to see. If you didn't tune in yesterday, you'll want to tune in today, as Mario Andretti, Tanner Faust, Pato O'Ward, and I'm not sure who else might drive the Formula One car. There's been a few volunteers, Alistair McRae being one of them. And then just after, or just before lunch, we'll have Group 6, 1963 to 69 production sports cars and FIA prototypes. And then Dirtfish rally cars are here. That's the first time we've had the Dirtfish rally cars here. And I'm a big proponent of them, and Steve Rimmer and his team, as they are based just outside Seattle, and they're bringing some really iconic rally cars, so we'll talk about them. Then it's Group 7 and the historic Trans Am cars, and that really does fit perfectly here at Laguna Seca. We'll have another demonstration on track at 1:30, and then we've got something that we've not actually seen, I haven't seen anyway. I've seen a lot of the historic Trans Am cars over the years, but not the 66 to 79 in Group 8 for the Trans Am smaller displacement, the SCCA B sedan and C sedan, and yeah, really looking forward to that. And I may have one of the great proponents of that, John Morton, coming in to talk about that later in the day. And then we've got the hypercars, the Zingers, the Gunter Works, the Hennessy's, and the Zenvos. The Zenvos right by my commentary booth, so looking forward to that. So a host of great racing to come. I hope you will stay with us or tune in and out as you see, so please. But there's lots to see, and the day will be finished off with a rousing run of Minis and Mustangs. I've decided to elect M&M's as their sponsor, so we can just have a full M&M Mustang Mini, just an M day, basically. Spencer then coming round to finish his last lap, sadly under caution, but it won't matter to him. Record crowd here yesterday, and it's starting to fill out. You can see the car park below you. If you've never been to Laguna Seca, you always know how full Laguna is by the hill going up towards the corkscrew to see how many cars are parked in there. And when that fills up, you know things are going well. So Spencer on his way to finish here our Group 3. Well done. Everybody cleanly through. And we don't mind that there's a caution. We get a closer look. Also gives the drivers a chance to relax a little bit and wave to the marshals. Shout out to them, they enjoy it too. I was talking to one of the fire marshals last night, and he said, I'm going to come back here and bring my kids next year and not actually work it. I said, well, it's not a bad place to work. So as I mentioned, the foundation are raising money to repave the entire Laguna Seca track next year. And the Laguna Seca Raceway Foundation, or LSRF, is an independent 501c3 charitable organization established back in 2002 and revitalized in 2020, focusing on financing capital improvements and ongoing infrastructure upgrades at Laguna Seca Raceway. The all-volunteer board of directors guides the foundation's efforts, their individual motorsport histories merging around common passion for Laguna Seca Raceway and ensuring that in all ways it reflects the coastal California popular resort communities on the Monterey Peninsula. And that last bit of information there is almost one of the keys, because it really is a very important part of the coastline here in California. And yeah, I'm just delighted that the foundation is both aware and doing what they do as part of the foundation. And like I said, they'll be repaving later next year.